Corruption is the enemy of good governance. Corruption is the enemy of development. We must get rid of both. On the 17th of August, you proved that your franchise, the power you hold, will reign supreme. The United National Party gained 106 seats, United People's Freedom Alliance 95 seats, the Janata Vimukti Peramuna 6 seats, the Lanka Tamil Sukatchi gained 16 seats, and the Sri Lanka Muslim Congress and the EPDP gained 1 seat each. Your power. Good evening and welcome. This is Face the Nation. This evening we are discussing topics on 3 points. The topic would revolve around what challenges lie ahead, what is the way forward for a country like Sri Lanka now, and what must the people keep in mind when looking at good governance and making sure that corruption is eradicated from the country. Joining us this evening are Mr. Kirti Tennakon, Executive Director of the Campaign for a Free and Fair Election, Mr. Rohan Hettiarwachi, Executive Director of PAFREL, and also Mr. Asoka Abegunawardena, Chairman of the Strategic Enterprise Management Agency, who is also closely working on electoral reforms with the President, that is President Maithripala Sirisena. We will be joined shortly by Dr. Pakisol Saranmuthu, who is the Executive Director of the Center for Policy Alternatives. Let's start off with Mr. Asoka Abegunawardena. Mr. Abegunawardena, what sort of government do we have now? Because we are aware that 113 seats are needed to form a government. However, today we saw Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe taking oaths as the 15th Prime Minister of Sri Lanka. What sort of government do we have right now?
Yes, with the current system in place, we were all aware that none of the parties can get a simple majority in the parliament, because the prevailing proportionate basis, a particular party can get above 113 under certain special conditions only. The conditions like we had recently will not lead to get a 130 in the parliament. So it was obvious we were not going to get it, and the question was whether UNP will be the number one or the UPF will. So now we are aware that it's UNP is the number one and UPF is the number two, and there are other two major minor parties getting major share of that particular category, and two other parties which were originally aligned with the fronts, the alliances. So generally what's happening is then the first major party will try to have an alliance with the other minor parties in the parliament, mainly JVP and TNA. So JVP had only 6, so it's not adequate to form a stable government. So definitely, if the major parties are concentrating to get the support of a small party, then definitely it should be TNA. So aligning with TNA is an issue, because they have not agreed to join the government, but they will say under certain conditions they will support while sitting in the opposition. So that option, I believe, is no more. Then the second option, what the parties were trying earlier, was to get some of the members of the other side and get this magic number 113. So this time I believe that that system has no priority. There are certain individuals attempting that, but the leaders, they are not keen on that particular approach, because even before the elections I heard that President Sirisena and the then Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe clearly stating that we are not going towards that particular strategy. We will be negotiating with parties, not with individuals. So now, after the elections, it's clear, President Sirisena has clearly stated that parties should discuss and come to a consensus in forming a government to get the majority, plus doing something based on that. So that initiative worked, because firstly UNP, the UNP leader Ranil Wickremesinghe clearly stated that, well, we are willing to join this, we will start negotiations. So to that extent we have achieved something. Then yesterday something positive has happened, because the SLFP and UPFA to a certain extent has agreed to negotiate and form a, we can call it a national government or something else, but two major parties, that's UNP and SLFP, join and form a government. So discussions are currently underway. I have not seen the draft agreement which they have signed, but I heard that they are still negotiating, and even today night they are further discussing to further improve the document. So that will decide on what conditions, for what purpose this national government will be formed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Asoka Gunawardena, Chairman of the Strategic Management Enterprise Agency. I now move on to Mr. Rohan Hettiarachchi, Executive Director of PAFREL. Mr. Hettiarachchi, you all had a campaign which was called the March 12th Declaration. 17th of August, people voted in a new government. Are you satisfied with the manner in which people have chosen their public representatives? The time starts now.
Yeah, I think considering the political environment, political culture in the country in the last couple of decades, but we can't expect more result in these elections. But we have noticed one of the political party, the major political party, UPFA, in their manifesto, they have clearly included this 8 kind of principal criteria, even though they have not properly followed it. And also we notice some of the candidate, they use it they use this criteria, and they have published some advertisement also stating that they are aligned with this March 12 criteria and they are qualified enough considering this March 12 principle. So there are a lot of a lot of candidates are really interested with this principal criteria, and also the number of candidates takes these the scorecard which we have prepared. Other than the March 12 principle, we have prepared some scorecard to assess the candidate. The voters can, using that scorecard, the candidate themselves can assess their candidate. So a lot of candidates, the both parties, the UNP and the UPFA, both parties, they took some around 500,000 scorecard from us, the different candidates, to distribute. And they also trying to say that they also align with this scorecard, the criteria. But when we see the result, I mean, and also we had a long, the in-depth discussions with the grassroots level people, and we try to use the mass media as well. But when we see the result, actually we can't satisfied with the result, even though we try to pressurize the party and we try to educate the voters. The representatives they have selected, the parliamentarians they have selected, I think we can't satisfy. But and then again, as I mentioned from the beginning, we can't expect more result in this the past elections, because it takes times. So I think next hopefully we will schedule local elections somewhere in December or early next year. So now we are trying to more focus on the next local elections, how we are going to clean the local politicians, and also we are trying to pressurize again and again to use this criteria in coming elections. So I think there are a lot to do, but we are happy in certain extent we were able to make that public discussions. That is the most important thing. So and also the political parties also take it seriously, even though they didn't practice. So we hope that next maybe 10 years period we can make this change.
Mr. Hettiarachchi, you said you can't be satisfied with the representatives who are being elected to Parliament. Do you mean to say that there are corrupt individuals in Parliament now?
Of course, yes. I can't name them, but it's unfair. But I mean, in generally, we have noticed some candidates, those who get the highest majority in their own district. So people knows, but it's how they are getting their income and how they are corrupted. So unfortunately, without having proper evidence, and also if you say something, we have to get the information each and every candidate. So without that, I can't name it, but yes, there are.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hettiarachchi. Now move on to Mr. Kirti Tennakol, Executive Director of the Campaign for a Free and Fair Election. Mr. Hettiavachi said that his organization cannot be satisfied with those who have been elected to Parliament. Cafe, are you all satisfied with those who have been elected to Parliament? Your time starts now.
And it has a dual answer, and yes or no. And when we look into the 196 representatives selected and elected from the district proportional system, we have noticed 21 people has now facing or during the next 2-3 weeks they have to work with the corruption charges or various abuses, and in the other hand previously they have charged or the pending inquiries are on. So with that thing, it's a issue of when it comes to the corruption and the criteria laid by the March 12th declaration, it's 21 out of 196. So then now the nationalist is also on. There are some allegations coming on the nationalist people about some of them are financially corrupt, and there's various allegations on this. We can move on, but here when we look into the positive part of this parliament, is that we are seeing very much educated, respected professionals and very capable people who can make the legislative a very truthful one, and in the same time we can have a hope that when it goes to the good governance, reconciliation, constitutional and electoral reforms, we have a very good positive hope.
Mr. Tendakon, with regard to the campaigns that you all launched the Think campaign with Newsfirst, and then this transformed into the Don't campaign. Does these two campaigns helped the public to realize that they should not appoint the corrupt to Parliament?
I think both March 12 declaration and in the same time the Think campaign for the clear candidates or vote for the clear candidates was materialized, and it has had an effect on the country during the election time, just because it has created so much of a big dialogue among the voters, how to vote, number one, and to whom we should vote. That discussion is still on. Just after the nationalist nominated were announced, the discussions go on, and people are trying to measure their representatives, and that's the most important part I see. And the people try to recognize their representatives who has get elected, and in the same time putting the pluses and the minus on this. In the other hand, now we have changed the political culture of Sri Lanka, and with the electoral culture definitely, and we have seen the CID cases which was stopped during the inquiries due to the elections have now started its activation, and we know that Karu Jayasuriya will be elected as the speaker, which will be one of the main positions when it comes to the parliamentary top post, as he will be becoming one of the members of the Constitutional Council, and definitely Constitutional Council will be established, and within no time there will be appointments made to the Independence Commission. By establishing the Independent Commission, I think we are on the right, correct path to establish the independence of all these institutions, and in the other hand, we will definitely on the right track to change the political culture of Sri Lanka.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Tendakon. That, of course, was Mr. Kirti Tendakon, Executive Director of the Campaign for a Free and Fair Election. Let me introduce our journalist this evening. On to my immediate right is Nadine Majid, the Newsfirst journalist. On to my immediate left is Sonali Wanagabadge, who is also a Newsfirst journalist. And on to my far left is Faraj Shawkatali, who is attached to Newsfirst and also an independent investigative journalist. Let's start off with Sonali.
Thank you, Shamir. Gentlemen, I'd like to speak about the general party first. The Janata Vimukti Peramanu, who was reckoned as the third force by most, they put forward a very strong and attractive national list. However, yesterday we saw two nationalist MPs being nominated, One was from the national list, one was not. One was a defeated candidate. So today again we saw how the United National Party did not deviate from its previous stance, and it went ahead by appointing people to the national list from the designated set of candidates. What are your thoughts, Mr. Abegunawardana?
Now we have to first understand the existing mechanism. We have the national list and we have the district list. And for the district list, selection is done by preferential voting. And on the proportionate basis, number of seats allocated for a particular party will be determined, but who is going to be elected is determined by preferential voting. We had a serious issue regarding this preferential voting system, and major parties, not only major parties, all parties agree that preferential voting is not the best method for us to use. So that's why it's a faulty method. We need to have a new method. So getting rid of the preferential voting and having an MP for each and every electorate was the two main slogans which were there while formulating this 20th amendment. So firstly, we need to understand faulty method cannot come up with the correct answers. So that's the first thing. And secondly, now we are discussing the national list. National list, there's a dialogue because we have a list, but it's not prioritized. So even if you are picking someone from the national list, it's immaterial, it's not in order. So the leader can select whoever he wish to select at the end. So now the question is whether the defeated candidates under the preferential voting system should be selected or should not be selected. I mean, so that's an open question, because I am not saying that all defeated candidates under the preferential voting system are corrupt and that's why they were defeated. It's not so. Why I am saying so? Now I am not concerned about this. The hardcore political party members like
Mr. Abegunawardana, just let me interrupt you for a minute there. I want to move on to Mr. Tendakon on his thoughts on this. Is it justifiable to have a defeated candidate coming in from the national list?
I mean, according to the election law of the country, the Parliamentary Election Act, it very clearly says the defeated candidate can be appointed as a nationalist MP.
From the people's perspective, people vote
as a matter of principle, is it right?
No, this is the system we create. This is the system we have created, and according to the system, the law is enforced, and this is the, matured way of doing things. And if there's if we thought at that time when this drafting is taking place, we should call for a closed list, then it has, as Ashoka said, it has to be prioritized. It is not prioritized, it is not a closed list, it's a very open list, so we can have the open list results. And that is exactly what happened with the JVP and the UPFA at the moment. It has a closed list, it does not have a closed list, it's an open list, so then the people who contested under the district proportional system can get elected for the national list. It's as simple as that. That's the law.
Mr. Hettiarachchi, you spoke about the corrupt being in parliament, people voted in. Let's take a look at the UPFA national list now. Are there anyone who's corrupt in the UPFA national list? Mr. Hettiarachchi?
I'm sorry, I can't.
You don't have to name, but just generalize. Just tell me, do you see anyone who's corrupt in the UPFA national list now?
I'm not saying the corrupted people, but I'm just saying what is the purpose of the national list? What is the purpose of national list? Mainly the minor party or minor groups, those who are not getting any chance to come into the parliament for the legislature. So that is the one area. And the number two is get the professionals inputs for the lawmaking or policy making in the parliament. So when you select the people for the national list, whatever the party, so at least you need to consider these two areas. So my point here is whether the UPFA or any other political party consider these two factors. For me, I think they have mainly considered the political issues, not really the real important issue with the national list. What in the purpose of the national list. So there are people in the UPFA list also.
UPFA national list. Mr. Hettiarachchi, do you want me to tell you the national list MPs?
No, I do have. I just went through. I went through the list. So I have noticed that there are some people who should not go to the parliament under nationalist criteria. If people select, that is fine.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hettiarachchi. We are also joined by Dr. Pakisa Saranamuthu, Executive Director of the Center for Policy Alternatives. Thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Saranamuthu. Nadeem, yes, please.
Thank you. I'd actually like to start with Dr. Saranamuthu. Dr. Saranamuthu, ahead of this election, a hope for a lot of people was that this election would be a herald and would restore some semblance of stability in the political arena. Given the current mix that we have in Parliament, or that has just been elected to Parliament, do you foresee any semblance of stability?
Well, I mean, we are getting a coalition government, and I hope that the coalition will be based on a set of principles and agreement which will hold. It would have been much better, I certainly thought it would have been much better if one party got an overall majority, but the people have so decided, and I think there can be stability. I mean, remember, we've had governments in this country that have survived for quite some time on a one-seat majority. So, you know, the question with regard to stability also depends entirely on the political commitment on the part of the members of the coalition to ensure stability in the national interest.
Dr. Saranamuthu, also, once the usual orders of Parliament are conducted with the appointment of the Speaker, the Deputy Chairman of Committees, the Deputy Speaker, what do you think should be what should be first on Parliament's agenda once the administrative stuff is out of the way?
Well, there is the unfinished business from the last Parliament in terms of the last government with regard to governance, the right to information, electoral reform, all of that. And also you will have the response to Geneva, which will also come before Parliament in some shape or form. And in a couple of months we'll be into a budget.
Faraz?
Yes, good evening, Dr. Saranamuthu. Can I ask you, you say a coalition government. Do you then envisage that we will not have any more than 30 ministers and 40 deputies?
Yes, I think we will stay within the limits that are set by the 19th Amendment with regard to the number of ministers and deputy ministers, etc.
That's the best bit of news I've heard so far. Mr. Kirti, you said that you say that the culture has been changed. How can it be changed? We have in the national list, we have people who've been defeated by the people, and then you find the party secretaries are nominating them by force to represent the people, but the people have voted against them.
I'd like to start with Naveed's question to Sara. And I think the number one agenda when it comes to the unfinished business of January 8th the mandate, I think the establishing the Constitutional Council is the most important part. We have struggled it throughout last Parliament, and it has also, you know, uphill task to establish it. And the composition of the Constitutional Council is also a question. And I think that is number one priority to address some of these good governance issues, and definitely that will make the life easier to the parliamentarians to do what exactly parliamentary meant to do.
But
and when it comes
good governance has got off on the wrong foot, because you've got defeated candidates being imposed on the people by the secretaries of the parties.
Definitely, I mean, this is the system what we are having at the moment, and as I said earlier, I mean, we are having an open list for the national list, and according to the election law, that's according to the Parliamentary Election Act, the people who has contested, the people who has the names gazetted under that particular act can be nominated as the national list MPs.
But I think the question is not whether they can be nominated.
So this law, I mean, when the lawmakers pass this particular act, definitely think of this. Might have think of that, and that's why they have kept an open list to accommodate this sort of issue. And throughout the parliamentary history in Sri Lanka, these sort of things happen. And I mean, this discussion was also, it just not started here. It happened long time ago, and we just debated it for almost 2 decades now, and we didn't change the law.
So when is the
just
system
because of
gonna
one
change?
reason, the parliamentarians has thought that this is the best way to sort it out. So they kept it open.
Best for whom? Best for the people or best for themselves?
Best to the parliamentarians, maybe for the political parties for that matter, and that is what exactly happened. In the other hand, when the JVP and the UPFA now has appointed the losing candidates, because using that particular space, and you cannot blame for a certain political party or two for that matter, just because they use that space created by the law.
But as a matter of principle, where do you stand?
If it is not principle, if it is not going according to the
where do you
principle,
stand on
we
the
had almost 25 years to change it. Now we are demanding continuously to change it.
But
now
as a matter
this
of
is the time
principle,
to
where
change
do you
it.
stand? Do you, Mr. Kirti Tennakon, Executive Director of CAFE, think that defeated candidates should be brought in through the national list?
We were campaigning to stop this for almost 20 years now. And if Kirti Tennakon speaking here, yes, I am not agreed to that. But here, this is according to the election law, and even during the last election, I very openly said this is not ethical, but here, this is the election law. And at that time, we continuously wrote to the newspapers and we were discussing this issue. We tried to lobby the parliamentarians to change the law, but they kept this national list open.
Dr. Saranmuthu, what are your thoughts on this? Defeated candidates coming through the national list.
I don't think they should come in at all. If they're rejected by the people, that's enough for me. They should not come in at all. But there is this loophole. I mean, remember, you're talking to someone who went to court in a situation in which someone was parachuted into the national list, where his name never was there on any list that was submitted to the election commissioner, and the highest court in the land held that that was possible. This violates the most fundamental principles of democracy. So when we come to look at election laws, we must make pretty sure that this kind of thing cannot happen.
Mr. Kiarachi, what are your thoughts on this? Do you believe that defeated candidates
it's a little bit difficult questions, yes. But you can't make a proper line on that. But as a principle, as you said, so for my position is defeated candidates should not select by the party as a national list. But in this case, there may be some exceptional cases. So in this selection, we have noticed the party which we are discussing now, there was some political game. So we need to consider, not because of the voters defeated them, but there are some other reasons also behind that. And the other example with the JVP, if Hadunnetti contested under the Colombo list, definitely he would have win the elections. So that party has decided to bring him parliament. But but my heart feeling, my principle, the defeated candidate should not come to the parliament.
Ms. Sadhya Gunawardena, what would have been the thinking of the president when he brought in
I disagree with all
individuals?
these three gentlemen. I think it's fair to nominate defeated candidates in the national list. There's a reason for that. Why I'm saying this? We are against the present system. The preferential voting system does not lead to make sure that the best candidates are selected because of the method itself. That's what I was trying to say earlier. Now, the preferential voting is based, the decision is made was made mainly by the voters who are biased to a particular party. But the ultimate composition of the parliament is determined by the floating voters. So, in this context, as we are against preferential voting, this faulty method is not leading to make sure that the good candidates are selected and the bad candidates are not selected. It's not the method. So that's why there should be a provision, because there are better candidates other than the people in the national list who are defeated because of the faulty method, the preferential voting system. There should be an allowance for them to be elected based on a certain criteria.
Dr. Saranmuthu, just give me a second, Nadine. Dr. Saranmuthu, you want to add something to what Mr.
No, I just totally disagree. I mean, this is fundamentally anti-democratic. Who in a functioning democracy decides who is a good candidate or a bad candidate?
The people.
That method.
The people.
Exactly.
That comes to my
long basic tenets of democracy.
Dr. Farah to express his views. Yes, Dr.
Basic tenets of democracy surely mean that if you're rejected by the people, someone sitting above doesn't then parachute you into this position.
And we had this particular debate when Basil Rajapaksa was, nowhere on the national list long time ago, when the one elected member was, passed away in a natural cause, and then he was just put on the national list, and that debate went on. And if my memory is correct, the CPA is the one who went to the courts when Ratnasiri Vikramanayaka is not on the list.
Not
and
on
then,
list.
No, I mean, not on the national list, not on the district proportional system list, it's not, the name was not gazetted, and then he was taken into the parliament. So, these sort of things happen. And that's why my stand comes here. I mean, ethically, this is not the best thing to do. But here, the parliamentarians, the lawmakers have allowed this to happen. And that's why they are keeping the open list. As it is not a closed list, it is not coming into the numerics number 1, 2, 3. It does not come. The party leader, party leaders change. The decision makers make change, as we have experienced in this case.
But don't you agree that the chairman of the party or the general secretary should have the discretion to elect individuals based on their own whim to the national list?
We can talk openly now. This national list of the UPAFA is, designed by one other person, and now the decision making is taking in another forum. So it's some other person's national list, and now the decision making is, shifted to another person.
Mr. Abhigunawardhan, you want to counter that? Yes, Mr. Tiarachi?
Yeah. I think the main issue here is there's no proper criteria. Then again, come to the criteria. There's no proper criteria. There's a law, but there's no proper criteria how to select the nationalist representations. Either party, I don't know. They just handpick, considering the political issues. That's it. So that is why, in principle, I agree with this gentleman. Otherwise,
Mr. Abhigunawardhan, yes.
I have to respond to this. Now, if we agree that this method is the correct method, then there is no question.
But this is the law. So we cannot say about the law. We can go beyond the law and discuss it.
I want to respond to this.
Curious to listen to what Mr. Abhigunawardhan has to say.
Now, the point is, now let's take the example, shall I take the example of a name like Mr. Mahinda Samarasinha, right? Now, it's not the voter who decides who is losing and who is winning, it's the method that decides. So, same vote, but if you apply two different methods, you will come up with two different results. Yes. So, first we need to recognize which method is better than the other. So, that's why we were pushing. I was fully, I was engaged in a full mission to make sure that this election should happen after the electoral reforms. Then we could have discussed whether the defeated candidate should be selected or not. In the proposed method, definitely the defeated candidate should not be selected under the national list. But if the method is not correct, let's take the example of Mr. Mahinda Samarasinha. Now, if you go to the new method, then he will be contesting from Agalavatta, and definitely there will be only one candidate from that particular party. If that party wins, he will win. But if you go to the full district level preferential voting, definitely he cannot win because the method is wrong. So that's what I am saying. If you are without correcting the method, we cannot just simply go by the principles.
Dr. Saramuthu, the method is wrong. Is that
the method leaves a lot to be desired? But the simple point is this: is that there is an ethic, a spirit of democracy here, which is basic and fundamental. The party secretaries and party leaders chose to do this. They didn't have to choose to do this if they were in agreement with us. They didn't have to choose to do this. They chose to do it. It wasn't dictated to them by some hidden hand.
I think we are opening the floor in a very considerable way. But I just want to add something to...
Very quickly, I will give you 30 seconds, Mr. Tendulkar.
Yeah, I mean, just to add, when we discussed about this Mahinda Samarasinha's issue, I mean, when you go to Kalutara, I mean, we should not forget the fact that against Mahinda Samarasinghe, there was a very big hate campaigning. It's well organized inside the UPFA and asked not to vote him just because he got the ministerial post. And we can give the same example for the SB Dissanayake at the Kandy district. It was well organized, and I don't think some of the UPS who campaign against SB or Tilangar or maybe the Mahinda Samarasinghe in the district levels have done it against the UNP.
Again, you're contradicting what you said earlier. You said that those in the those who were defeated should not be brought in through the national list.
No, I am not justifying what they have done. I am not justifying that I am talking about the practical situation. Here I am standing that on that, but here in the same time, I just want to add that there's some injustice deliberately and very organized manner done to some of these candidates.
Thank you very much.
That's why we are having this question.
Thank you very much, Mr. Thennakon. Thank you very much, Dr. Saranamuthu. Thank you very much, Mr. Hettiaravacha and Mr. Abegunawardena. We, of course, will go in for a short commercial break. When we come back, we will be discussing about the challenges that lie ahead in Sri Lanka. All this and more after this short commercial break. This is Face the Nation. Welcome back. This is Face the Nation. We are in discussion with Mr. Rohan Hettiaravachi, Mr. Kirti Thennakon, Dr. Pakisal Saranamuthu and Mr. Asoka Abegunawardena. Let's start off the second round with Dr. Pakisal Saranamuthu, Executive Director of the Centre for Policy Alternatives. On the 17th of August, people voted in a new government. We saw the Prime Minister taking oaths today as well. Dr. Saranamuthu, what challenges lie ahead? The time starts now.
Okay, there are tremendous challenges, I think, that lie ahead for the new government. There are challenges in respect of completing the governance reform program. There is an electoral system that has to be introduced. There is the promise of right to information legislation which has to be introduced. There's a further whittling down of the powers of the executive presidency and strengthening parliament. There are a whole lot of governance reforms. Then in addition to that, you're getting the report coming out of Geneva in respect of war crimes. The government's response to that is also going to be critical. There is a whole process of transitional justice which the government needs to outline as to what its framework is in respect of that. That is with regard to justice, accountability, truth, reparations and guarantees of non-recurrence. Then in addition, and part of that whole process is also a question of, is there going to be a political and constitutional settlement of the ethnic conflict? Are we going to the fullest implementation of the 13th Amendment? Are we going beyond it? And how far beyond it are we going? In addition to that, there is a raft of issues that I see with regard to the economy. We have a very bloated public service. We are told that by 2030, I think it is, we will have no demographic dividend. We will have an aging population. This is going to have serious ramifications for the health sector, for pensions. So, there are a number of issues. There are short-term, medium-term, and long-term issues which have to be thought about and discussed. There needs to be a national conversation, because I don't think any of these can be done without carrying the people along with you.
Do you think the people voted wisely on the 17th of August?
Well, I mean, if the people were to ask me, I would say they could have voted even more wisely than they did. So yes, I mean, it's a result that I'm happy with, but I would be happier if I could be happier with the result.
No party was able to gain a majority in Parliament. How do you view this, Dr. Saranamuthu?
No party was able to gain a majority because at the end of the day, obviously, the message, the individuals carrying the message were insufficiently convincing or attractive or appealing to ensure that that happened. There are hard constituencies in this country which are going to take quite a bit of time to shift, quite frankly. And I think, therefore, that there is, the whole governance reform project, what was started in January with the election of Maithripala Sirisena, it is a project which will always, and for quite some time, be in a state of becoming rather than in a state of being.
Thank you very much, Dr. Pakisal Saranamuthu. Now I move on to Mr. Kirti Thennakon, Executive Director of the Campaign for a Free and Fair Election. On the 8th of January this year, people voted in for change. Was this change evident on the 17th of August as well? Mr. Tennako, your time starts now.
I think during the run-up to the presidential election, one thing highlighted was the good governance. And when it comes to the next period, I mean after January 8th, to some extent we have achieved so many very concerning issues when it comes to the good governance, and we have put the foundations to the right way forward, especially with the Information Act, the National Audit Bill, and try to establish a correct constitutional council for that matter, and all these issues were addressed. And I think the mandate was very clear on the August 17th that the same forces has given a chance to govern the country for next at least for 4.5 years. So we are on the right track, it seems.
In terms of the way forward for a country like Sri Lanka, how do you see the country moving forward, and how should it move forward in the next 4.5 years?
The lawlessness was one of the main concerned issues during the last 10 or 12 years, and the establishing the law enforcement on ground, I think that's the main priority, and it has to be shown on ground, like what it happens during the election time. Especially on the election day and the post-election time, we saw a tremendous improvement on the law enforcement, and during the election campaigning period we saw the same law enforcement strategies, and it has worked very well. But here just now we got the news that in Katangudi area there was a crash between the Hizbullah supporters and the other party, which was getting involved with the election violence for a very long time. What is the message coming on this particular news? Now Hizbullah was appointed as a nationalist MP, so his supporters for the first time see that they are having the power, their power politics is on ground now. So is this what we want, or whether the issue here, whether we can show the world, we can show the people, we can show the victims for that matter, that law enforcement is taking place. If the law enforcement is taking place, basically I think most of the concerned issues will be neutralized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Keith Tennako. Now I move on to Mr. Rohan Hettiarachchi, Executive Director of PAFRA. With regard to campaign activities, with regard to the manner in which the elections campaigning took place, the conduct of the Elections Commissioner, many individuals give the credit to the Elections Commissioner. However, on the 8th of January, we saw activities, illegal activities taking place in the country. Who should be given credit for this? Is it the Elections Commissioner, or is it the respective government that was in power? Your time starts now.
I think as a leader, we need to give the respect for the Elections Commissioner, no doubt about it. But not only the Elections Commissioner, in these elections, even though we are credited for the Elections Commissioner and IGP, but those two gentlemen were there during the the presidential elections as well. But in these elections, why this difference, how they act promptly, properly? I think just because of, there are various reasons. I need to say, as a initiator, this martial movement make a difference. And also, the credit goes, not PAFRA actually, credit goes to all the civil society organization, including the monitoring body and the media, business community, all of them. So that is where we start these elections, the political culture side. And the 19th Amendment was passed by the Parliament, so the Elections Commissioner were more empowered with the 19th Amendment. And the present IGP is really, I mean, compared with the past IGP, the Inspector Generals, so this gentleman is fairly good gentleman. Now,
who should be given the credit, Mr. Hettiarachchi? The Elections Commissioner or the President?
We can't say it's a one person. So if you ask me one person, definitely we have to say the Elections Commissioner. But not only
the same Elections Commissioner was there on the 8th of January as well.
That is why I am trying to explain. We have to salute for the parliamentarian, those who have passed the 19th Amendment, of course the Elections Commissioner, of course the IGP, and also the government. The President play a neutral role during this election. There may be some reason for that, But as the persons, we know how he behaved during the last couple of months, not only the elections period. So we need to salute the President and also the Prime Minister. He has given a good signal, right signal for their candidates, their party supporters. If you violate the elections law, we are not behind with you, we are not supporting you. And also he made the line with this abusing the government resources, especially the vehicle which the ministers are using. So I mean, it's a team effort, but as a person's elections commissioner, but it's better to say all the stakeholders who are engaged with the elections made this difference.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rohne Tavacha. I now move on to Mr. Asoka Abbegunawardena, Chairman of the Strategic Management Enterprise Management Agency. Mr. Abbegunawardena, the President said following a new parliament that comes into power on the 1st of September, that's what he said in his speech. He said that the priority would be electoral reforms. Does that mean that you will be on duty again? The time starts now.
Yeah, that depends on the MOU the two major parties going to sign. I believe this will be a main item in that. So I mean, why we need to have an sort of a alliance or national government or combined mechanism is to make sure that we will be establishing proper mechanisms for the future. So the short-term target should be to establish mechanisms for them to run in the future automatically. So their first priority, even though it will be implemented after 2020 at the next election, we should complete these electoral reforms, no question about that. That takes time not only to pass in the 20th Amendment in the Parliament, but also to complete the delimitation process, and all those things will take time. So we need to complete this task as soon as possible, allow the processes to happen thereafter. And establishing the other commissions and other stuff, it's okay. Now the point regarding, I mean, the challenge, you're discussing about challenges. I think the major challenge is how the TNA and to a certain extent JVP should be, how we can have them on board. That's the major issue, because if we cannot address that issue, then after 10 years time we will be in a chaotic situation. So we need to find ways and means of working closely, mainly with the TNA or the Tamil community, to have a mechanism. So that's the challenge we have. So in addition to what's mentioned right now, the electoral reforms, that should definitely happen, but there are other things that should happen. So our major effort should be, I think I deviate to a certain extent from the other gentleman with respect to this issue. I think the major approach should be to share the power at the center rather than devolving, because if you share the power with the Tamil community at the center, then automatically that will be implemented in those areas.
Thank you very much, Mr. Abbegunawardena. We now move on to the round of the journalists. Let's start off with Nadeem. Nadeem.
Dr. Sarumuntu, I'd like to start with you because with regard to Geneva, the UN Human Rights Council will be meeting in a couple of weeks
in September.
Usually by this time this would be making national headlines, but this year with the election, governance reforms, electoral reforms, all of this on the table, Geneva is sort of is on the back burner, let's say. Do you think the government is prepared to face whatever is going to come out in Geneva in September?
I'm sure the government is. I mean, I don't think that the government has ignored the issue of the report over the last 8 months. I mean, I think they have been considering what needs to be done in respect of transitional justice.
What steps have they taken, though, in the past 8 months?
Yeah, I mean, I think they've been looking at ways in which to design and construct this credible domestic mechanism which they've been talking about. We've had some movement in terms of, in the north and east, in terms of reparations. 1,000 acres of land has been returned. You had the change in terms of the governors. There have been conversations, I think, which have involved the South Africans on a sort of truth and reconciliation type mechanism. There has been conversations, I think, on a kind of permanent office of missing persons. So these are all things which will have a bearing with regard to...
But nothing concrete has taken place over the last few months. Since March, where the foreign minister pledged that a domestic mechanism will be introduced in Sri Lanka. Dr. Saramuthu.
Yeah, yes, I think, the reason why nothing concrete has happened is because they wanted to keep this under wraps, because they were scared that more extreme and racist elements might jump on it and make it an electoral issue. But I think very soon, after this new government takes office, there will begin a national conversation, consultation, with regard to the whole raft of transitional justice issues.
Does the manifesto of the Tamil National Alliance concern you with regard to federalism?
As you probably know, the principal party in the Tamil National Alliance is the Federal Party. And the Federal Party has been talking about federalism ever since it was founded way back at the end of the 1940s. So that's no great surprise that the TNA manifesto will be largely determined by the Federal Party and that the demand for federalism will be there. And I think it's been in every single election manifesto that the Federal Party has come out with.
Dr. Saramuthu, you speak of a domestic mechanism. What about the domestic mechanisms that have been implemented thus far, namely the LLRC, the Presidential Commission to investigate or inquire into missing persons? In your opinion, what's the status of that?
But I don't speak of the domestic mechanism in terms of recommending it. I'm only referring to what this government has said, that it is going to look at a credible domestic mechanism. Everything that has happened in the past, and in particular you refer to LLRC and all of that, let's be quite clear. The Mahinda Rajapaksa regime did that largely because of international pressure, and it was done for the international community.
Are you saying the LLRC recommendations are not credible?
No, the recommendations are credible. Implementation is not there. There was never a political commitment to implement the recommendations of the LLRC. Hence, you got the resolutions in Geneva. I mean, if the LLRC was a serious business, how long did it take for the government of Sri Lanka to translate that document into Sinhala and Tamil? They gave it to the central bank to translate, of all places. To the central bank to translate, and it took something like about 9 months. We, for example, translated the last chapter with the recommendations within a couple of weeks. They were not serious. They were not at all serious.
Do you see a genuine interest taken by the present government to address accountability issues?
Oh yeah, I do. I do. What I'm interested to see is how deep and how far it goes.
Mr. Abhay was talking about power sharing with the Tamil political leadership at the center. Where do you stand on that?
I personally support a federal constitution for this country, and that federal constitution will entail power sharing at the center as well as in the provinces. The point about a political and settlement of this issue is that it must be a constitutional settlement as well. It can't be a settlement that is determined by the political exigencies of the day. It needs constitutional validation so that powers given will not be taken back.
Mr. Abhay, what do you have to say to that?
Yes, I think this is the same old story we were discussing about a few decades now. Now we have a different context. We have to think differently, find different solutions. What is important is not the discussion, what really we are delivering to the people and what are the exact deliverables. So in that context, I think we can discuss about this federalism on and on again, but what benefit will we can deliver to the Tamil community. That's the important. So sharing power at the center does mean that from the day one they can get the benefit, and the defunct provincial councils, once they are part of the government, they will be active, and that process can be activated rather than discussing on and again this federalism or the other methods of devolving power. What we have to do is we have to deliver the results by giving them the opportunity to work and do their work on their own.
But do you agree with Dr. Saranamuthu that any kind of solution, power sharing at the center, should be at a constitutional level and should not be determined by the political exigencies?
I cannot understand this constitutional level solution, how how we can do that and how effective that would be. The point is, irrespective of whether it's a constitutional change or not, we have to deliver. That's my argument.
Mr.
If we
do you
fail to do
think
so, then in next 10 years' time, we will be in a chaotic situation once again.
Mr. Nico, do you think there is international interference into affairs related to Sri Lanka? Internal affairs related to Sri Lanka?
I mean, the issue here, the government, the president and the prime minister don't have any other choice to work on reconciliation, and that reconciliation, how we are going to do, how the Sri Lanka is going to do, how this coalition government or the national government going to deal with is the big question. Now it's very clear, as the president and the prime minister continuously said, that they are ready to touch the burning issue of reconciliation, and there are two ways of doing it. Number one, working with the international recommendations as it comes with the UNHCR and all this, and in the other thing, think of a new mechanism, the local mechanism, which LLRC or maybe some other way of way forward.
Mr. Hettiarachchi, Sonali, just want to interrupt Mr. Thenukon for a second, then I want to move on to Mr. Hettiarachchi. Do you think that Sri Lanka will have to bow down to international pressure after September?
It depends how the government is dealing with this problem. I mean, I do have feeling with this, the national coalition or rather national government. I think it will be a good combinations in the future. I do have hopes. So I think they will handle this issue properly, even in with the international community. So, I mean, it depends how they deal it. So my hope is that they will make it properly, and there may be pressure, but not maybe immediately. So they will take some more time for the new government, new coalitions, new national government to handle this issue internally.
I think, I mean, as far as the UNP and the UPMFA is under pressure by the different forces here internally, the TN is also under pressure to work with the government, and they have to do it in the parliament. Maybe, I mean, I think as far as we have, with the information coming on, it seems like they are rather looking into the leader of the opposition position and try to show that they are the main opposition and try to deal with it. Or maybe some areas they can work with the government, and working with the government will definitely give a very positive messages both to the international communities, in the same time to the local, the South Sinhala Buddhist mentalities. And why I am saying this is so important, if the TNA is ready to work with the government, that will ease the pressure coming on the president and the prime minister to deliver the reconciliation impact.
Dr. Saramuthu, do we need the international community to tell us what to do?
We don't, if we come to our senses and recognize what we have to do. The international community's involvement, as far as this is concerned, is largely because we have failed to do our duty by ourselves.
The Human Rights High Commissioner had said that a stronger report will be presented in September at the UNHRC sessions. Does that mean human rights and accountability issues will obviously be raised at this instance? My question to you is, Dr. Saramuthu, what would be the benchmark? How would Sri Lanka know that they have achieved a reconciliation, that they're respecting human rights? Because the international community can always say that you all are falling short. What is the benchmark?
Well, the report that will be issued in September, well, officially
handing over tomorrow,
officially issued in September in the Council, is a report that contains one particular part, which is the report of the investigation under the aegis of the Office of the High Commissioner into violations of international humanitarian law and allegations of war crimes, etc. Okay? So what the international community will be looking at is the extent to which the government of Sri Lanka is willing to address this. Mm-hmm. They will have their own recommendations, I suppose, but it is about a demonstrable commitment to take it seriously and address it.
Dr. Saramuthu, you spoke of transitional justice, reparation, non-recurrence. The President has said that we will be non-aligned in our approach without undermining sovereignty of Sri Lanka. how do you think the government will go about achieving transitional justice, etc.? Do we have the expertise at the local level, or should we seek international assistance?
I think that in a number of cases we might well have to seek international technical assistance. And if I remember correctly, this government has said that it has no problems in doing so, seeking international technical assistance. The seeking of international assistance in itself is not surely a violation of our sovereignty. Something that I would consider to be more a violation of our sovereignty is signing agreements where we reclaim land from the sea and give it to a foreign government.
For us,
I want to ask, this report, is it only going to be likely to focus on the last few months of the war, or the whole 30 years?
No, it's focusing largely on the last days of the war, where the allegations are being made with regard to specific cases and others.
So I suppose there were no bad things that happened in the 29 years before that, then?
No, certainly not. There were very many bad things that happened in the 29
not focusing on that.
years before that. But this particular investigation is into those allegations of war crimes that were made, have been made, war crimes and crimes against humanity in the last stages of the war.
Gentlemen, I have an open question. It is reasonable to expect that the report in Geneva in September will call for prosecutions. This is a very sensitive issue. On both sides of the divide, it is a very sensitive issue. How do you think the government should approach this?
I think government has done its homework with a very free and fair elections. I mean, when it comes to the human rights, having a free and fair elections is a key to get elected their representative. And this government has done it for the first time, I mean, after very, very long time, very, very long ages. And in the other hand, we have seen that we are capable of enforcing the law on ground. In the other hand, we have seen that freedom of expression, freedom of opinion, freedom of campaigning, freedom of press was ensured during the last 2-3 months. And that freedom has given so many opportunities to various opinions on ground. And now the political discussions on human rights are taking on ground. And people are debating, and people are coming with various, opinions and suggestions, even on the local mechanism. And this is very positive. And this positiveness is, everyone has highlighted, even the national level and the international levels. And this definitely, when the Geneva sessions open, this will give a positive remark to work and ensure that the government will get some fair time to respond. But here, once again, what is that fair amount of time, and whether the government is ready to take very concrete actions on ground is my question.
Mr. Abegunathan, where do you stand on?
Yeah, actually, I think we need to first investigate what's the purpose and what's the objective of the international community. I think they are handling the issue from the wrong end. If they are, I have no idea what's included in the report, but based on the discussion, I believe if their first priority is to dig in the past, then it will lead nowhere, because it's not the first priority of the people living in North and East and also.
But I don't think Dr. Saramuthu would agree with that.
Issue is
thought.
The future.
What do you think?
You see, I don't think you can proceed into the future without having a clear starting point. And that starting point has to be the truth. Now,
nothing else.
You can't proceed into the future on the basis of asbestos and amnesia, which is what the Rajapaksa regime was trying to do. They told us, infrastructure, forget about the past, we need to think about the future.
But closure
go
is
tell
important,
that to the mothers, and wives who are still looking for their family members.
Yes, Mr. Abegunathan.
Yeah, I think the point I raised was that if you are concentrating, let's say, on it's a perfect case that we have to dig the past and clear all those things and go to the future, this is a relative world.
But closure is important.
No, the issue is, now if it's disturbing the future process, then it's an issue. I am not against having the digging the plants in the list, it's okay. But if it's the first priority, then that will lead nowhere, because we need to have a secure future. So it should be in the list, but it shouldn't be the first priority.
But Mr. Abhigunawardana, with regard to what happened in the north and east, you have relatively a lot of people representing those provinces. Don't you think closure is important? They're citizens of Sri Lanka as well.
Well, now let's
mustn't that be a priority?
That's what I am questioning the approach of the TNA, because what
you are even
exactly
against
in the
their
new
policy.
context, what exactly we should do? That's the first thing. First thing is what exactly we should do for the future. So based on that, if we are progressing in that direction, then we can accommodate the other concerns like digging the past.
Thank you very much, Mr. Abhigunawardana. I want our viewers to wisely think about these discussions. Always remember, what we are trying to do is to make you think with regard to what your future should be and what you should do in the future. I leave it to the people to decide. Let's talk about the elections now. The post of opposition leader. Mr. Hettiarwati, now we have a national government in place. Which party should appoint the leader of the opposition?
Sorry, which party?
Which party should now appoint the leader of the opposition? Is it the TNA, the JVP, or is it the UPFA itself?
So it's, I think, a bit difficult question. I don't know whether my colleagues do have any answer on that. But in the past, we have experience in the similar situations in the recent past. The lot of SLFE members, the parliamentarians, join with the government. They get the ministerial portfolio, and at the same time, one of their leader become as opposition leader. So we have that practice, but there was a big allegation on that later on. But we do not know. I mean, the rest of the parties, they do have few numbers of MPs. I think the TNA do have 16
seats,
16,
right?
Yeah. The JVP have 6. So I think they may not allow, I mean, they means the both major parties, they may not allow the rest of the parties to get the opposition leadership. I think mainly from the UPFA gentlemen, I think will get
Mr. Nico, it's a coalition government now in play.
According to the agreement, what the MOU which signed today at the Presidential Secretariat, it's very clearly said this is a MOU between the UNP and the SLFP. So UNP and the SLFP, when forming a national government or a coalition government, there's no way part of this SLFP or the UNP can take the leader of the opposition position. And when we talk about the leader of the opposition post, we should understand what is the composition of this parliament. Number one, yes, we are having 16 MPs from the TNA, and the JVP is having only 6. And there are another 2-3 political parties which make the UNP coalition, which comes with its SLMNC. Muslim Congress is having 7 MPs, and it is not the JVP is the third force. As you mentioned down there, it is the Muslim Congress, as they are having 7 MPs down there. And the ACMC, the Rishak Madhuddin's political party, is having 6 members. And moreover, it's the Bimal Veeravansha's political party is having 5 MPs elected at the district levels. So there are some other elements playing here. But
does that mean the TNA will be able to appoint the leader of the opposition? Does that mean the TNA will be able to appoint the leader of the opposition?
Definitely, according to these numbers, the TNA is having the better chance of electing, getting the post of the...
But is that, for me, this is the question, is that right? The way I see it, that the leader of the opposition should be able to represent all communities in the country. When the opposition leadership goes to a party that, by virtue of its name, only represents a single community, what happens to the rest of us? Are we chopped liver?
In 1977, TULF made the leader of the opposition in-house, and the same theory can happen. And we are talking about national reconciliation. And why we are talking about whether it's a regional political party or not, when they are having the numbers, they are automatically having that right. And otherwise, They should be another force or one particular candidate to show, I mean, besides the SLFP or the UNP.
Dr. Saramuthu, I'll give you 20 seconds to respond. 20 seconds
Can I
to respond.
just cut in there? I mean, just remember one thing. In Parliament, who spoke on behalf of the opposition in the debate on the 18th Amendment? In Parliament.
The TNAD, yes.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
good answer.
We have to now go in for a short commercial break, and then it's going to be the final round. This is Face the Nation. Welcome back. This is Face the Nation, the final round. We start off with Mr. Rohan Hettiarachchi, Executive Director of PAFRL. Mr. Hettiarachchi, what is the way forward and what must people keep in mind during the next 4.5 years? Your time starts now.
Yeah, I think the important thing is we have to have a citizens in this country. Earlier we had the voters. Even in the last elections we had voters. They vote various political parties. But what is the next after you franchise your right? So what is the citizens' role in this country? You know, the most of the political parties, they behave like this. We are facing the political culture just because of the voters, just because of the citizens. There is no public demand for the good things. But very recently, in the last, let's say, 1 year's period, we had that discussion, not really the March 12. There are a lot of discussions, and that is why this January change also take place. So like that, so in the future, not only the parliamentary, not only the parliament, there are various other level, the provincial as well as the local level. So local level elections also will come in soon, somewhere in end of this year or maybe early next year. So for these the representations level, we need to bring the proper people, the qualified, capable people to represent the voters. So there is a role for the voters to select the good people, and after the voting, so they need to act. They need to how to say proactive in the electoral process. And we just thinking whether we can have some kind of the shadow parliament, something like that, and alternative members for local government level. So it's very close to the people. So people need to monitor whether their representative are properly represent them in the parliament. We have the bad experience in the parliament. The last parliament, I think I have raised that issue in here also. Some of the candidate who get the highest number of votes in their respective district, they never talk in the parliament with regard to the policy or law-making issues. So the people need to alert whether their representative are doing their job properly, whether they are representing them properly, whether they take their issues to the parliament, whether they take their issues to the provincial level. So people, the voters need to become citizens of this country. So that is, I mean, we have to work on that in the future.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rohan Hettiarachchi. I now move on to Mr. Asoka Abbegunawardena. Mr. Abbegunawardena, 2.5, 3 weeks ago when we sat on the same show, you said that you are a floating voter. Very quickly, tell me, did you vote on the 17th of August? You did vote. What are your expectations from the politicians during the next 5 years? Your time starts now.
Yes. Now, I think we need to understand there's a mismatch between the aspirations of the voter and the mechanism we have. Now, all the voters, they vote, they need to be part of the executive process, not only within the Constitutional Assembly, so or the decision-making body there. So, the first priority is now the two major parties, the UNP and SLFP, should work together and have an agreement, which is happening right now. They need to fine-tune and finalize it. Then they need to try their best to accommodate other parties as well, to get them on board. TNA, JVP, and there are, as mentioned earlier, there are other few parties outside SLFP. You have the UPFA, and outside UNP you have the United National Front. So the other parties should also they should have an attempt to get them on board. So that's the first thing. Then I think there's a good initiative proposed by the Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe to allow the MPs to exercise, irrespective whether they are in the opposition or the government, allow them to exercise certain executive powers. I think he is trying to formulate a new mechanism which is very useful. And as an example, now there's an issue of having the DCCs, divisional level coordinating committees. It's generally belonging to the major or the government, but it should be allowed the other opposition MPs to be part of that. So those things, step by step, we can allow things to happen, not only the parties with the government, but also with the others. So my proposal is to work towards that and establish a mechanism so that for the future we can do something useful beyond just discussing, something useful, something happening on the ground with the blessings of the people.
Thank you very much, Mr. Asoka Abbegunawardena, Chairman of the Strategic Enterprise Management Agency. I now move on to Mr. Kirthi Thennakon, Executive Director of the Campaign for a Free and Fair Election. Mr. Thennakon, politicians, what must they keep in mind in the next 5 years or so?
I mean, forming a national government or a coalition government does not necessarily say that all the parliament is exercising the executive powers. Then it will be one other problem. I mean, when it comes to the legislative, its role is dual. I mean, it has a ruling party and there must be opposition. The issue here, my main concern is that how to have a really strong, meaningful delivering sort of opposition in this environment. And having a strong, capable opposition is one, very concerned and must fact when it comes to the functioning democracy. And if you are looking and if you are pressuring for a national government to increase the number of ministers or the deputy ministers and the state ministers and getting all the political parties representing the parliament at the moment to form or go one way, that will be disastrous when it comes to the long time, when the long term practices of democracy. And it is very important that we should find a way to have a balance of that. Ruling party maybe come with alternative solutions from a different, very strong, capable opposition. And I think here's the space coming for the citizens and the civil society to help, to try to establish that opposition is really working on ground. It won't come easy at the parliament as the main two political parties are forming a coalition or a national government, and there's a very big space for the civil society and the citizens of the country and to the media to come up with the alternative for the parliamentary system maybe, or to encourage the other politicians and the legislative, the lawmakers to come on board with the alternative.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kirthi Thennakon. I now move on to Dr. Saranamuthu. Dr. Saranamuthu, you've been very critical about the previous regime, the Mahinda Rajapaksa administration. What is the way forward for a country like Sri Lanka?
I think the way forward for a country like Sri Lanka is fundamentally recognizing that there is a diversity and pluralism amongst its people, and that needs to be preserved and strengthened and celebrated. What I want to see is a constitutional framework that does precisely that, that accommodates that, and allows therefore for the implementing legislation with regard to the processes of governance and the institutions of governance to be set up. You know, there's an Israeli philosopher called Avishai Margalit who wrote a book called The Decent Society. He talks about a civilized society and a decent society where institutions don't humiliate citizens, and citizens do not humiliate each other. That's my guideline for a better Sri Lanka.
When you take a look at the problems at hand, how do you envisage that this government counters these problems, which are right now at our doorstep?
Well, I think it's going to require a tremendous amount of skill and dexterity, and what is most important, I see, is that there is a pivotal relationship between President and Prime Minister to be able to take this program forward. They need to be singing from the same hymn sheet, as it were. There needs to be a national consensus which is articulated by the two of them. Differences and variances with regard to that national consensus, if articulated by one or the other, is then going to suggest that the government is incoherent and not unified. So that's extremely important, that they come together in the national interest, and one hopes that that's exactly what's happening now.
The document that was signed today stipulates a time period, a time frame, that is 2 years. Is that sufficient?
Well, I hope that if it is insufficient, after the 2 years, they can consider renewal.
Thank you very much, Dr. Saramuthu. Thank you very much, gentlemen. That is Dr. Pakeso Saramuthu, Executive Director of the Center for Policy Alternatives, Mr. Kirti Thennakone, Executive Director of the Campaign for a Free and Fair Election, Mr. Rohan Hettiaravachi, Executive Director of PAFREL, and also Mr. Asoka Gunawardena, Chairman of the Strategic Enterprise Management Agency, for joining us this evening. Also our journalist this evening, Nadim, thank you very much for joining us. Sonali, and also for us, nice to have you on board as always. I leave you tonight with a quote. You can't predict the future, nor can you undo the past. Mistakes were committed which turned into regrets and then transformed into experiences. It's only after storm can we truly experience sunshine. We need a secure future for the youth of this country. We need a secure future for the children of this country. We need a secure future for our future generations. We truly need some sunshine. Good evening, good night, and God bless.